Jokic might actually win his 4th MVP. Nikola Jokic just dropped one of the most ridiculous stat lines I've ever seen. 61 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. He's now one of only 3 players to ever pull off a 60-point triple-double. The others, Luka Doncic and James Harden. But Jokic actually topped them both. He now holds the highest scoring triple-double in NBA history. And get this, he's the only one to ever do it in a loss. His efficiency was just as wild. He shot 18 for 29 from the field, which is over 62%. He knocked down 6 of 11 from deep and hit 19 out of 24 from the free throw line. That's nearly 80%. Altogether, he scored about 1.76 points per shot attempt. That's unheard of for someone who took that many shots. His true shooting percentage came out to around 71.5%. That's one of the highest ever recorded in a 60-point game. He also tied the Nuggets franchise record for free throw attempts in a game, matching Carmelo Anthony's 24 try. His game score was absolutely nuts. 52.7. That's the 22nd best since 1984. It's also the highest of his career, beating the 48.7 he had in 2022. It even ranks higher than a ton of legendary performances, including Kobe Bryant's 81-point night and LeBron James' biggest game. Jokic played 52 minutes and 53 seconds out of a possible 58. That includes a 40-minute stretch where he didn't sit once. He became the first guy since Michael Jordan in 1990 to score at least 60 and play over 50 minutes in a game. And he didn't just score, he was responsible for 91 of Denver's 139 points. That's 65.5%. Nobody's ever created that much offense in a 60-point game. The Nuggets were plus 23 with him on the floor. Without him, minus 24 in just 5 minutes of rest. That kind of impact is hard to even wrap your head around. It was his 31st triple-double of the season too, tying Wilt Chamberlain for the most ever by a center in a single year. He also became the first player ever to post 60 or more points, 10 or more rebounds, 10 or more assists, and 6 or more threes in one game. That's never been done before. He's now just the 39th player in NBA history to drop 60 or more points in a game. This was also the 2nd highest scoring game in Nuggets history, only behind David Thompson's 73 back in 1978. Only 3 other players, Wilt, Westbrook, and Harden, have ever had a 50-point triple-double in a loss. Now he's averaging over 29 points, nearly 13 rebounds, and more than 10 assists. His shooting splits are 57, 41, and 80. He's top 3 in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. Nobody's ever done that. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Jokic. I know a lot of people think SGA should be MVP, but when you look at it, I think it's Jokic. Jokic's shooting splits are just flat out insane. He's knocking down nearly 60% from the field while taking almost 20 shots a night. That's not normal for anyone, let alone a center who's also the engine of the entire offense. SGA's no slouch at 53%, but Jokic is way more efficient with every shot he takes. And when it comes to 2-pointers, Jokic is torching everybody with over 62%. That's a number you just don't see from a guy getting double teamed half the time. SGA's sitting at around 57%, which is still great, but it's just not touching what Jokic is doing. In true shooting, Jokic is blowing the doors off with 66%. That's elite territory even for guards who barely get touched, and Jokic is doing it while playing bully ball down low. SGA's at 56%, and that 10% gap really shows the difference between very good and flat out unstoppable. Jokic's efficiency on that kind of usage just doesn't make sense. I've watched guys take 30 shots to get 30 points, but Jokic is out here casually scoring almost 30 per game while barely cracking 20 attempts. SGA actually takes slightly more shots, but still averages just a tick more in points. So Jokic is getting nearly the same scoring volume on cleaner looks, less effort, and way more contact. And look at the 3-point percentages. Jokic is shooting over 41% from deep. That's sniper status, and he's doing it on nearly 5 attempts a night. SGA's hitting only 35% on fewer threes. So not only is Jokic taking more threes, he's converting them way more efficiently. That opens up the whole floor for Denver's spacing and makes it even harder to guard him. But it gets even crazier when you break down clutch scoring. Jokic's 61-point game in double overtime wasn't just volume. He hit 19 of 24 free throws in a high-pressure game. That's almost 80% from the line when everything mattered most. And Jokic's 61 came in 53 minutes, showing he doesn't just show up in the first 3 quarters. He dominates when games go long. Jokic doesn't just rise in big moments. He completely takes over. Now let's talk about what really separates these two. Impact beyond scoring. Jokic isn't just putting up almost 30 points a game, he's also dishing out over 10 assists every night. That means he's directly responsible for 50 or more points every single game just from buckets and assists. SGA's scoring 30 and throwing 6 dimes, which is solid, but not even close to what Jokic is doing. And that's without even mentioning the rebounding difference. Jokic is grabbing almost 13 boards a night, while SGA's just over 5. That's more than double the rebounding, and those extra possessions are everything in a tight game. Jokic is creating second chances, facilitating entire possessions, and scoring efficiently from every spot on the floor. He's getting it done from 3, mid-range, the paint, and the stripe. Every angle you look at, he's got the edge. Even when they put the numbers side by side, Jokic is just too much. He's scoring nearly the same as SGA, but doing it on cleaner looks, with better spacing, more range, and a better understanding of when to shoot or pass. And all of that while playing the 5 spot. I've never seen a center with this kind of scoring and passing combo. SGA's a great volume scorer, no doubt. He gets to his spots, draws contact, and finishes strong. But he doesn't control the game like Jokic does. The gap in true shooting alone is enough to separate them, but throw in the 3-point accuracy, the clutch dominance, the rebounding edge, and the playmaking totals, and it's not even close. Jokic is putting together one of the most efficient, well-rounded scoring seasons I've ever seen. And it's not like he's coasting either. These aren't empty numbers. He's carrying that team on offense, especially in crunch time. His 60-point triple-double wasn't just some freak stat line, it was a full-on takeover. Nobody else this year has done something like that, and the craziest part is how casual he makes it look. Jokic gets into a groove, and suddenly every possession ends with either a bucket, a dime, or a trip to the line, and his shooting percentages stay sky high the whole time. If you're just looking at points per game, yeah, SGA's technically got the edge with just over 30. But once you dig into how those points come, it's a totally different story. Jokic is squeezing more value out of every shot, every pass, every board. And that's why he deserves the MVP this year. He's the most efficient, high-usage scorer in the league. And he's doing it while running the offense, dominating the glass, and stepping up in big moments. No fluff, just numbers. Jokic is the guy. But the thing is, we can do the same for their passing. Nikola Jokic's passing numbers this year aren't just impressive, they're unreal. He's not just ahead of Shea in the passing department, he's blowing him out of the water in every single stat that matters. I've looked at all the numbers side by side, and Jokic is dominating this matchup from every angle. Let's just get right into it, because there's way too much to ignore. Jokic is averaging over 10 assists per game. That's more than any other center in the league and ranks 4th among all players. Shea, he's at just a little over 6. That's good for 15th among guards. Not first among guards, not top 5, 15th. That gap alone shows who's controlling the floor better, but it doesn't stop there. Jokic leads the entire league in total assists with 663. That number is massive. Shea, by comparison, has just 403. That's a difference of 260 assists. That means Jokic has created over 200 extra scoring opportunities for his teammates this season alone. Then you look at triple doubles. That's where things get wild. Jokic has racked up 31 triple doubles this season. That's more than anyone else in the league. Shea has 5, not 10, not even half of what Jokic has. 5. It's not even close. That kind of production shows how consistently involved Jokic is in every aspect of the game. He's scoring, rebounding, and passing at a level that nobody else can touch, especially not Shea. And it's not just the volume of assists, it's how smart and efficient Jokic is when he's doing it. His assist to turnover ratio is 3.1. That means for every one time he gives the ball away, he dishes out over 3 assists. Shea's sitting at 2.4. That's a solid number for most guards, but Jokic makes it look ordinary. He's not just producing more, he's taking better care of the ball while doing it. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Jokic leads the league in potential assists, creating over 22 potential assists per game. That's almost 23 shots every night that come directly from his passes. Shea's only generating 12.7. That's a difference of nearly 11 potential assists every single night. Over the course of the season, that adds up fast. It's just more proof that Jokic is creating far more scoring chances than Shea on a nightly basis. And when you break it down into how many points those passes actually create, Jokic is still far ahead. He's generating 25.5 points per game just from his assists. That's not even including his own scoring. Shea is at 15.1. That's more than a 10-point difference, night after night. Jokic's ability to consistently find the right guy, put the ball in the perfect spot, and generate offense is unmatched. But Jokic's passing game isn't just about finding an open shooter. It's the versatility that makes it so dangerous. He leads the league in post-up assists with over 4 per game. Nobody else is doing that, especially not Shai. He also leads in elbow assists, averaging almost 4 from that area too. These are the kinds of passes that most guards don't even try, and most big men can't execute. Shai doesn't even register in those categories because that's not his game. But it's Jokic's bread and butter. He's also racking up over 7 assists per game in the paint. That's more than double what Shai's producing down low. And again, he's doing it as a center. A center! It's wild how easy he makes it look, whether he's finding cutters, kicking out of double teams, or threading impossible passes to guys under the rim. He's doing it all without ever bringing the ball up the court. And yet, he still has more control over the offense than most guards in the league. Even on fast breaks, Jokic is leading all centers with 1.8 fast break assists per game. That means he's grabbing the rebound, scanning the floor instantly, and firing off pinpoint dimes before the defense even knows what hit them. Shai's at 1.2, and he's the one expected to run transition offense. Jokic is doing it better, without needing the speed or flash. It's just vision, timing, and perfect execution. Now let's talk about crunch time. In the fourth quarter, when every possession matters, Jokic is still outpacing everyone with 3.1 assists per game. That's the best in the entire league. It's not just about putting up stats early and fading late. He's delivering in the moments that matter. Shai, who's known for his scoring, is only putting up 1.8 assists in the fourth. That's a full assist and change less than Jokic. And when it comes to game-changing plays, Jokic has 12 assists that led directly to go-ahead scores in the clutch. Shai has 5. That's 7 more clutch buckets created through Jokic's passing. It's one thing to be good in the middle of games, but it's another to be the engine that delivers wins in tight moments. That's exactly what Jokic is doing, controlling the pace, making the right reads, and setting up teammates when it counts the most. Historically, there's just no comparison. Jokic is the only center ever to average more than 10 assists in a season. That puts him in his own category. He's also the fastest center to hit 5,000 career assists, needing just 740 games to get there. Every other big man who's reached that milestone needed over 1,000 games. That's not just efficient, that's historic. It shows how consistent and impactful his passing has been throughout his career. And the assist rate? This season, Jokic is sitting at 44.7%. That means nearly half of every made basket by Denver while he's on the floor comes directly from him. That number is unheard of for someone his size. Guards would kill for a stat like that. For a center to pull it off, that's the kind of thing that makes voters take notice. This year's MVP debate might include a few names, but when you break it down strictly by the numbers, Jokic's case is overwhelming. He's not just passing better than Shai, he's doing it with more volume, more efficiency, more variety, and more impact in the biggest moments. And he's doing it all from a position that's never been known for playmaking. That's what makes it so special. These aren't just nice numbers. These are numbers that change how we think about the game. Every stat line, every ratio, every comparison, Jokic is winning them all. That's not bias. It's just the truth. His passing this year is on a different planet, and it's exactly why he should be walking away with the MVP trophy when the season ends. But here's where it gets really crazy. Nikola Jokic's on-off numbers this season are some of the most ridiculous I've ever seen. And when you put them next to Shai's, there's just no debate. Jokic is on a completely different level when it comes to impact. These stats aren't about what looks flashy or who's got the highlight reel. They're all about results, and Jokic's numbers don't lie. Let's start with offensive efficiency. When Jokic is on the court, the Nuggets are scoring at a rate of 129.2 points per 100 possessions. That's elite, that's top tier, historic, whatever word you want to use, it's dominance. But when he sits, that number drops all the way to 108.7. That's a 20.5 difference. That's not just noticeable, that's game-changing. That kind of on-off swing is almost unheard of. For comparison, when Shai is on the floor, the Thunder's offensive rating is 123.2. Not bad at all, but when he's off, they drop to 113.2. That's a 10-point swing. Still solid, but it's literally half the impact Jokic is having. Jokic's presence changes everything on the floor, and the numbers prove it. But that's just the beginning. When you look at true shooting percentage, both guys are tied at 64.1%. That sounds even on paper, but it's not. Jokic is a center putting up that level of efficiency while being the offensive engine. And his player efficiency rating, 32.2. That's the best in the league. Shai's at 30.9, which is impressive. But again, not enough to catch Jokic. What makes this gap even wider is usage rate. Jokic is being used on 35% of Denver's possessions. Shai's at 32.5, so Jokic is being asked to do more, and he's still more efficient. Then there's rebounding and playmaking, two categories where Jokic just buries Shai. Jokic leads the entire league in rebound percentage at 28.4. That's nearly a third of all available rebounds when he's on the court. Shai, he's at 5.9%. That's not even close. Jokic also leads in assist percentage at 45.7. That means nearly half of Denver's made shots while he's on the floor come directly from his passes. Shai's at 18.6. That's barely over a third of Jokic's number. You just can't look at these two side by side and act like the impact is the same. Jokic is owning entire possessions, start to finish. Now let's get into defense, because people love pretending Jokic is a liability on that end. But his numbers this year tell a different story. Denver's D rating when he's on the floor is 109.9. When he sits, it jumps to 114. That's a negative swing of 4.1, which means the team is actually defending better with him in the game. He's also averaging 1.8 steals per game, top 10 among centers, and adding nearly 1 block a night. That's legitimate production on the defensive end, and it's clearly impacting the team in a positive way. Meanwhile, Shai's D impact is going the opposite direction. When he's on the floor, Oklahoma City's D rating is 112. When he's off, it drops to 109.4. That's a positive swing of 2.6. Translation, the Thunder defend better without him. That's not a knock on his effort, but it absolutely matters when talking about value. If your team gets worse on both ends when you're off the floor, you're doing something right. If your team gets better when you're off, that's something voters can't just ignore. Then we've got the historical angle, and this is where Jokic starts pulling away for good. He's on pace to finish top 3 in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. That's never been done before. Not by any player, not by any guard, not by any forward, not by any center, not by anyone. Shai is having a great year, but he's not close in rebounds or assists. He's averaging 5 rebounds and around 6 assists. Solid numbers, but nowhere near what Jokic is producing, and definitely not in the same historic tier. Jokic also owns the single highest game score of the season, with a mark of 52.7 during his 61-point explosion against Minnesota. Shai's best is 48. That gap may not seem huge, but when you're talking about top-tier performances, every decimal matters. Game score factors in everything: scoring, efficiency, rebounds, assists, turnovers, fouls, all of it. And Jokic still came out on top. All of these numbers together paint a very clear picture. Jokic's on-court presence boosts Denver's offense more than any player in the league. He controls the pace, initiates the offense, dominates the glass, distributes like a guard, and makes his teammates better every single minute he's on the court. And when he's off, the team suffers in almost every measurable way. Shai just doesn't have that same level of impact across the board. He's a star, no doubt, but Jokic is carrying a heavier load with more efficiency and better results. And again, none of this is about flashy plays or personal bias. It's just cold numbers. And when you take a hard look at all of them, it becomes obvious who's driving, winning more consistently. Jokic's offensive rating swing is twice as big. His assist and rebound percentages crush Shai's. His defense actually improves when he's on the court, and he's hitting milestones that nobody in league history has even touched. This isn't just a great season, it's an all-time season. And the numbers don't just support the case for most valuable player. They make the case undeniable. Jokic is doing more, doing it better, and doing it with historic consistency. There's no guessing here, just raw, unmatched impact. And the thing is, Jokic is the Nuggets team. Nikola Jokic's usage stats this season are off the charts. And when you line them up next to Shai's, it becomes really obvious who's having the bigger impact. We're not talking about personal preference or style of play here. This is just the numbers, and they all scream one thing loud and clear. Jokic is doing more, doing it better, and doing it with less room for error. I've gone through every advanced stat that matters, and the gap between these two isn't just noticeable, it's massive. Let's start with the core of it all. Playmaking. Jokic leads the entire league in assist rate at 43.9%. That means nearly half of Denver's made field goals while he's on the floor are coming directly from his passes. That's an absurd level of responsibility. Shai's assist rate is only 18.6%. That's not just lower, it's less than half of Jokic's total. And this is a guard we're talking about. Jokic is running the entire offense from the center position and still creating more plays than Shai by a mile. If you look at assists per 40 minutes, it tells the same story. Jokic is averaging 11.1 assists per 40. That number is elite, no matter how you look at it. Shai's sitting at 7.5. That's a solid number for a guard, but it doesn't touch what Jokic is producing. It's like Jokic is operating as both the point guard and the power forward at the same time. and still doing both jobs better than the guy whose entire job is to run the offense. And then there's scoring efficiency. Jokic's true shooting percentage is 66.2%. That's not just efficient, it's elite efficiency, while also being the main hub of the offense. Shai is at 64.1%, which is also great, but the difference becomes more impressive when you consider the position. Jokic is doing this while regularly getting double-teamed in the post and shooting over defenders in the paint. Shai is facing smaller guards and has more freedom to create space. Even then, Jokic still edges him out. Jokic's effective field goal percentage is 62.5%. That's factoring in his ability to hit from everywhere on the court, including three-point range. Shai's effective field goal percentage is 57.1%. That's not bad, but it's just not on Jokic's level. Jokic isn't just making more shots, he's making the right shots, and he's doing it efficiently while constantly getting swarmed by opposing defenses. And now, let's get into rebounding. Jokic's total rebound rate is 19.2%. That means he's grabbing nearly 1 out of every 5 available rebounds on the floor. Shai, he's at 0.1%. That's not a typo. It's really that low. That gap alone tells you all you need to know about who's impacting the game in more ways. Jokic is also pulling down 12.8 rebounds per game, compared to Shai's 5. That's over 7 more boards per game. And on the defensive end, Jokic's rebound rate is 28.3%. That's elite. Shai's defensive rebound rate is only 4.1%. That's a huge difference, especially when you think about possessions and how often Jokic is ending them with a rebound, then starting the next one with an outlet pass. Jokic isn't just doing one thing really well, he's doing everything. He's had multiple 60-point triple-doubles this season, including a ridiculous 61-point, 11-rebound, 10-assist night. Shai hasn't come anywhere close to that kind of performance. In fact, Jokic is on pace to average a 30-point triple-double. That's 29.7 points, 12.8 rebounds, and 10.2 assists. That's never been done before. Ever. Those numbers would be historic from any player, let alone a center. When you look at all-around impact, Jokic still comes out on top. His box plus minus, which measures a player's impact per 100 possessions, is better than Shai's. And his player efficiency rating is the best in the league at 32.2. Shai's at 30.9, which is still excellent, but again, it's not quite there. Every time you dig deeper into the stats, Jokic pulls ahead. Even when it comes to usage and ball control, Jokic is more efficient. He has a lower turnover percentage than Shai, 9.1% compared to 7.1. That might seem like a win for Shai, but context matters. Jokic is handling more of the offense. He's making more passes, playing more minutes, and touching the ball more often. And he's still keeping his turnover numbers low. That's the kind of control that makes coaches trust you to run everything through you. Jokic's usage rate is 31.7%. That's very close to Shai's 34.6%. So while both are being asked to carry a heavy offensive load, Jokic is doing more with his touches. He's scoring more efficiently, passing more, rebounding more, and turning the ball over less. That combination of usage and productivity is rare. Most players with high usage rates struggle to maintain efficiency. Jokic is somehow managing to lead in scoring, playmaking, rebounding, and advanced impact metrics, all while keeping mistakes to a minimum. All of this makes it really clear Jokic isn't just a high-usage star. He's the most efficient high-usage player in the league. He's doing everything you want from a point guard, everything you want from a big man, and everything you want from your franchise player. Shai's having a fantastic season, no doubt, but Jokic's numbers are on another level. He's redefining what offensive load actually looks like. It's not just about usage percentage, it's about what you do with it. And Jokic is doing more, doing it smarter, and doing it more consistently. From assist rate to shooting efficiency, from rebounding to turnover control, from usage percentage to historical production, every single stat shows the same thing. Jokic is not just outperforming Shai in one or two areas. He's dominating across the board. He's the ultimate offensive engine, and the numbers leave no room for debate. This isn't about narrative, it's about results. And Jokic is delivering them every single night. And the truth is, Nikola Jokic's greatness this season becomes even more obvious when you really look at who's around him. The numbers are screaming that his supporting cast is nowhere near what Shai has in Oklahoma City. Jokic isn't just playing at an MVP level, he's doing it with far less help across the board. When Jokic sits, Denver completely falls apart. They're 4-7 without him, which comes out to a win percentage of just under 37%. That's lottery team territory. And the net rating? -8.3. That's brutal. That kind of performance without your best player shows just how much they depend on him. Now let's flip it to the Thunder. When Shai sits, Oklahoma City is 2-1. They've actually won more than they've lost, even without their star. That's a 67% win rate. And they've got a positive net rating of 4.2 when he's out. That would put them on pace for 55 wins across an entire season, even without Shai. That's the kind of depth most teams dream about. So right from the jump, it's obvious. Denver's success hinges entirely on Jokic being on the floor, while OKC keeps rolling even when Shai's out. Look at the individual players helping Shai out. Chet Holmgren is putting up nearly 19 points, over 9 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game. He's doing it on over 62% true shooting. That's elite two-way production from a rookie big man who's already being talked about as an all-defense candidate. Then you've got Jalen Williams, giving them over 19 points a night with excellent shooting splits. 50% from the field, 39% from deep, and 87% from the line. Those are numbers of a borderline all-star, and he's not even the top option on that team. OKC also has elite floor spacing. As a team, they're shooting 38.1% from three. That's second best in the league. And it's not just 1 or 2 hot shooters carrying the load. They got 6 guys shooting over 37% from beyond the arc. That kind of shooting makes life a whole lot easier for a ball-dominant guard like Shai. He gets driving lanes, clean kickouts, and plenty of space to work with. That system is designed to elevate his strengths. Now look at what Jokic is working with. Jamal Murray is still a talented guard, but this season, he's been inconsistent. He's shooting just 33.7% from three, the worst of his career. And without Jokic on the floor, his impact drops drastically. Denver's offense loses rhythm, spacing disappears, and Murray's on-off split becomes a negative 2.1. That's a clear sign that Jokic is the one making everything click. Aaron Gordon is solid, giving them around 13 points and 6 rebounds per night, but he hasn't been recognized as an all-star or all-NBA player. His value mostly comes from hustle and defense, and even that can only go so far when he's surrounded by poor shooting. Speaking of shooting, Denver's team three-point percentage is 35.2. That ranks 20th in the league. That's nowhere near OKC's level. Nobody else on the Nuggets is above league average from deep. That means Jokic is constantly dealing with crowded paint, poor spacing, and shooters who can't punish defenses for collapsing. On defense, OKC has a top-ranked unit. They're number 1 in defensive rating at 107.8. Holmgren is protecting the rim at an elite level, while Lou Dort handles the toughest perimeter assignments. That structure allows Shai to conserve energy and stay aggressive on offense without having to anchor the defense himself. It's a luxury that Jokic doesn't get. Denver's defensive rating is 113.4, good for 14th in the league. That's middle of the pack. Jokic isn't a shot blocker, but he's had to rely on his positioning to clean up for weak perimeter defense. Aaron Gordon is the only real plus defender in the starting lineup. That's a lot to ask from one guy, especially when he's also running the entire offense. When you dive into clutch numbers, it becomes even clearer. Jokic has been responsible for nearly half of his total production in clutch time. 46% of his points, rebounds, and assists have come in the final minutes of close games. That's the kind of load that usually gets split across multiple stars. Not in Denver. Jokic is the closer, the playmaker, the rebounder, and the scorer when everything's on the line. And when he's off the floor, that negative 8.3 net rating pops up again. They just don't have answers without him. Shai, on the other hand, doesn't need to do nearly as much late in games. Only 28% of his production comes in clutch time. That's because the Thunder are usually in control early. Their record speaks for itself. 63 wins, only 12 losses. When a team is that dominant from the start, the pressure late in games disappears. It's a lot easier to put up numbers when the margin for error is that big. And then there's the advanced metrics. Jokic's on-off split is massive. Denver's net rating, with him on the court, is plus 14.2. When he's off, their offense drops from 121.3 to 108.1. That's a 13-point swing. That's more than enough to change a playoff team into a bottom tier 1. Meanwhile, Shai's net rating, on-off split, is plus 6.8. The Thunder's offense only dips from 119.4 to 115.6 when he sits. That means they're still scoring at an elite level without him. Value over replacement player, VORP, also makes Jokic's case even stronger. His teammates have a combined VORP of 6.2. Murray has 2.1. Gordon has 1.7. That's the total contribution of his 2 best co-stars. Now look at Shai's teammates. Holmgren alone has a VORP of 4.3. Jalen Williams adds another 3.8. Together, that's nearly 13. That's more than double what Jokic's teammates have contributed. And that's before you even look at other pieces, like Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe. All these numbers paint one very clear picture. Jokic isn't playing on a stacked team. He's not riding a wave of elite defenders or deadly shooters. He's the engine keeping Denver alive, carrying a flawed roster to relevance with pure production, vision, and basketball IQ. Shai is playing at a high level, but he's got help. Real help. Help that keeps OKC dominant even when he's not on the floor. Jokic isn't just playing like the MVP. He's doing it without a safety net. His teammates don't provide elite spacing, lockdown defense, or consistent scoring. Everything starts and ends with him. That's the kind of burden that only the best can handle. And Jokic is carrying it like it's light as air. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.